What is up, everybody? Of course, it's Legal Mindset. We teach you to be your own judge. And I'm Andrew Esquire. And today we're going to be talking about a mukbang influencer, Chantel, aka Foodie Beauty, self-deporting, aka fleeing from Kuwait as she faces legal fire and potential consequences. We're going to get into it today. Of course, I've got a PowerPoint for you. And this is a fast facts version. And for those that are new to my channel, I typically have two formats for most of my live streams, although there will be exceptions where I won't have a chance. I will usually do my live streams will have all the comments, all the other stuff in those videos, and all of the perhaps video I may show or other things I may show. But I'll do a fast facts version, a shorter video that is a condensed version of my live streams for those that may not have the time to watch an entire live stream, which may go on for an hour, 2 hours, and want something that's about 10 minutes or less, 10, 15 minutes max. So that's what we're going to do today for Foodie Beauty, and this should come out exactly after my live stream. So I've got the PowerPoint today to walk you through what's going on in the world of Foodie Beauty. So last we left, she was under fire in Kuwait for issues with the charity, issues with potential adoption of a kitten or alleged adoption of a kitten and donations related to that. And on my previous live stream, I pointed out that Foodie Beauty may be in some trouble because there is a prohibition on donations across the board in Kuwait. You cannot take personal donations or any sort of charitable donations, particularly if they're unapproved, unlicensed, etc. So as she was facing that legal heat, and last stream, no less than 2 days ago, we talked about the legal consequences in Kuwait. We now have some word that she may have left the country. Now, someone, and this is courtesy of the fruit farms, the kiwi farms, but someone had put together a timeline here on her visa runs and her entries and exits from the country. And it appears that the confirmed end of that arc, the end of her Kuwait arc, was yesterday in Asia time, June 17th, 2025. And it appears she'd been doing visa runs in order to maintain a tourist visa. So going in and out to maintain that for the past, it appears, 2 years. So shout out to those that logged this, that kind of kept track of this. This is one of the great things about the internet, is that there's somebody out there with a level of attention to put these things together. So it appears that that arc is now done. Now, where is she? Well, it appears she's back and she's self-deported, right? So she's removed herself from the country. Kuwait did not remove her. She removed herself. And it appears she's self-deported too. Well, I added some memes here. I had to. I mean, I got to love the beaver, right? This is a really good one. And this was really fun too. I really enjoyed this one as well. I mean, a boot, really? But no, Canada. So it appears she is back in Canada. Now, of all the ways to know, and there were many signs that I saw, mainly from references that she made herself, but one of them stood out. One thing really popped out to me more than anything else, and that was food, of course. We're talking about Foodie Beauty, so it's got to be food, right? So Billy K's, so she ordered Billy K's the other day. And when you couple that with her references to being in Canada, and this is a chain that only exists in Canada, there's no Kuwaiti Billy K's, not even an American Billy K's or anywhere else really in the world other than Canada. It really matches up to her being in a specific spot in Canada. Now, for those that are new to my channel, and I know the girl world community, many of you are new to me, I do not support doxing or giving away people's exact address. However, the country they are in is relevant. So yes, it appears based on her food choices, which are pretty clear dead giveaway, she's in Canada. By the way, this does look good. I do think I will be ordering a hamburger and some fries later because this does actually look, I'm hungry now. I'm hungry. But it appears she's back in Canada. So what does that mean? What are the consequences? And can she be extradited? So this is something that people have brought up. Well, what if she is found guilty in Kuwait? What if they, have some sort of finding against her? They come to a conclusion, they have a resolution, and they want to extradite her. Is that going to happen? Could they remove her from Canada and send her back to Kuwait to face justice? Well, there's several problems with that. The first is that Canada has no extradition treaty. An extradition treaty is an agreement between countries to extradite individuals from those countries. So saying, hey, we're going to agree to send criminals that come to our country back to yours. And these are typically bilateral. So these are typically between countries. So for example, Canada and the US, or Canada and France, or Germany. And there are some countries in the world that do not have extradition treaties between each other. Canada and Kuwait are one of them. By the way, Kuwait does not have an extradition treaty with the US either. Now, that said, even without an extradition treaty, you can have people extradited. The countries can talk, the diplomats can talk, ambassadors can talk, and they can come to some agreement. But that's a lot more work than having a treaty. So even though you don't have a treaty, that doesn't mean it can't happen. But there's a dual criminality requirement in Kuwait, and that's going to stop things. What is that dual criminality? That means in order to extradite somebody, Kuwait requires, and by the way, this is a requirement in many countries, not just Kuwait, but many countries that do extradition, is that the crime that you extradite them for must also be a crime in the country where they are. So she's in Canada. So what this means is the crime in Kuwait must also be a crime in Canada. And it appears, based on my understanding and research over the last 24 hours, that would not be a parallel crime in Canada. So that really wouldn't work if they're going to try to get her on the donation side. But beyond that, there's a process and the cost. So extradition, even with a treaty, even if there was an agreement, and there's not, it requires a huge amount of human resources, time, and money. And the country really has to weigh that. They have to weigh the cost of extradition against the severity of the crime and say, okay, we've got a murderer. Yeah, that's a serious crime. The cost and the benefit of bringing a murderer back to face justice, that's worth it. That's extraditable. That's something we're going to pay the money and we're going to go through the process for. However, somebody that messed around with donations, probably not going to be extraditable. And then, by the way, it's the crime itself. Extradition, like I said, it requires a lot. But if she's a suspect and fled the country, right? So once again, it requires a lot of resources. But if she's a suspect and fled the country and it's a minor offense, they're typically going to let it go. And by the way, it's unclear if she will even be ultimately convicted of the crime in Kuwait. So we don't even know if she's going to be held guilty of that in Kuwait or not. We have no idea. They may decide, okay, she's gone. We're just going to drop it and let it go. They often do that. Many countries do that for minor crimes, which is why when I cover nuisance streaming, it's such a big issue, because a lot of people who do nuisance streaming, that is, annoy people and break minor laws, or they might break some laws that are, they're laws, but maybe they're not on the level of murder or arson or something extremely serious. And the country might say, let's just let them go. Let's just let them leave. And maybe they'll do something else, but they're not going to extradite them to the country. So that's why I don't think extradition is going to happen. Now, consequences. There will be consequences. What could the consequences be? Well, first of all, Kuwait could blacklist her. So she may never be able to come back to Kuwait again. Now, whether or not she cares about that, whether or not Kuwait was in her life plan, I'll leave that up to you guys. And it also could cause some issues for her partner. So her partner, Salah, now, from everything that everyone's told me and educated me, this may or may not be a legal marriage, right? It seems like it may not be a legal marriage. He might face some consequences, even if they're not legally married. Oftentimes when you're in a country, you have to designate somebody as the responsible person for you when you're in that country. So if the person is in there, let's say on a work visa or some sort of other visa, that person could be held responsible for the actions of the tourist or the guest. So it is possible there could be some blowback on him, and he might face deportation, penalties, some sort of blowback in Kuwait. So that is very, very possible. Beyond that, Canada may resume any pending legal process. So a lot of people have mentioned that there may be things going on in Canada, maybe things she was called in for, other things like that. Those can resume, and any consequences from that or process can resume in Canada. And beyond that, people have mentioned bankruptcy. Now, once again, I haven't had the time to do a deep dive on this. So in full disclosure and candor, because I always try to be honest, I don't know the state of those bankruptcies or what's going on with them. But just to entertain that as a general discussion for bankruptcy, if there is a bankruptcy, unless it has been dismissed by the judge, unless the judge has said, oh, we're closed here, this is done, the bankruptcy is over, it can be resumed. The proceedings can be resumed. Now, Canada does not require you to remain in Canada during the pendency of a bankruptcy. You don't have to stay in Canada. You can travel. However, there are mandatory meetings during the pendency of that bankruptcy, where you need to come back and meet. It's called usually a meeting of the creditors or just a meeting with the judge, and you have to be there. So I don't know whether she attended those or skipped those or what's going on. I have no idea. But if there was any issues there, those could be brought back up and those could resume. Her going away and coming back would not mess with that at all whatsoever. So that's what I think the consequences are for Foodie. I know a lot of people want to see extradition, but unfortunately, I'm honest and objective here and want to give you the truth. Now, one thing I want you guys to let me know, and let me know in the comments below. Not only do you enjoy this format, but do you think Foodie was smart and escaped because she knew consequences were coming and she just wanted to self-deport and it was a brilliant move? Or do you think this was sort of just a gut reaction that she went by? I want to know what you guys think. Let me know, and I'll catch you on the next one.
You are coping the ceiling. You just can't believe what you're seeing. It's you.